This is Avi Loeb, believer of alien spacecraft, who says he's just a curious farm boy.
The night sky over Hawaii looked calm, but inside the Keck Observatory, something extraordinary appeared. Astronomers had captured images of an object that broke every rule of nature. At first, it looked like a faint comet drifting through the dark, but the data told a different story. Its chemical light and movement didn't match anything known in our solar system. That object was 3I Atlas, and it may not be natural at all. When Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb saw the data, he made a bold claim that shocked the scientific world. What we're seeing might be technology. If Loeb is right, this isn't just a comet, it's artificial. So what exactly did Keck discover out there? Every comet in our solar system follows the same basic recipe. They are made of ice, rock, and dust, and when they get close to the sun, they release gases that always include nickel and iron together. These two metals are cosmic twins, forged side by side inside ancient stars, and they have never been found apart in any natural comet. But 3I Atlas changed that rule completely. When Keck Observatory analyzed the light from the object, they found strong signs of nickel but no trace of iron at all. That might sound small, but for scientists, it was like finding smoke without fire. The specific compound detected was nickel tetracarbonyl, a toxic gas that forms only in controlled environments, usually inside factories or laboratories on Earth. It does not appear in nature because it needs pressure, temperature, and chemical balance that random space dust cannot create. For a comet flying millions of miles away, this was almost impossible. Dr. W.B. Hugendam, one of the researchers at Keck, confirmed the data by running it through multiple filters. He later said, "We found zero iron." That single line changed the entire discussion around 3I Atlas. If the analysis was right, then this object was releasing an industrial compound that by all known chemistry should not exist in open space. It was as if someone or something had designed the material to behave that way. Avi Loeb, who had studied interstellar visitors before, was quick to respond. He compared the data to his earlier study of Oumuamua in 2017, another strange object that had puzzled astronomers. Loeb told reporters, "Nickel tetracarbonyl is not a product of cosmic evolution. This only exists in factories." His statement made headlines across the world, dividing the scientific community into two sides. Some called it an overreach. Others said it was the first honest look at something we couldn't explain yet. The odd chemistry also suggested a new possibility. If 3I Atlas contained engineered metals, maybe it was made to withstand extreme temperatures or radiation. Its outer layer might be a protective shell rather than a natural crust. Computer models later showed that such a surface could reflect heat evenly, keeping the object stable even near the sun. That feature alone would make it functionally closer to a spacecraft than a comet, but skeptics pushed back. They argued that rare cosmic reactions might still produce nickel tetracarbonyl under certain conditions. However, no known event has ever created it in measurable amounts outside Earth. Until proven otherwise, 3I Atlas remains the first interstellar object to show a chemical signature resembling a manufactured alloy. And that's why Avi Loeb believes this could be the first real evidence of artificial technology beyond our world. If chemistry already looks engineered, What about its movement? Could its strange jet and perfect balance be the next clue? When scientists first tracked 3I Atlas, they expected it to behave like any normal comet. Comets always develop a tail that points away from the sun because of solar radiation and wind. This happens as their icy cores warm up and release gas and dust that get blown outward, forming a long, glowing trail. But 3I Atlas refused to follow that rule. Keck Observatory and the European Space Agency noticed something no telescope had ever recorded before. Instead of pushing gas away from the sun, this object was releasing a powerful jet straight toward it. Spectral readings showed a stream made mostly of carbon dioxide, water vapor, and traces of nickel particles being shot forward at hundreds of miles per second. For a comet, that direction was impossible. Every natural force should have pushed it the other way. Dr. Elena Vasquez, part of the ESA team, described the observation as like watching a rocket engine burn in reverse. The plume wasn't random or unstable. It was focused, narrow, and persistent, maintaining its aim for several hours. This suggested something deeper, a system that could control pressure or energy release. Avi Loeb later called it a sunward jet, saying it looked as if it were a thruster. If the jet was real, it could mean that 3I Atlas wasn't reacting to sunlight, but responding to it. Instead of losing mass naturally, it might have been adjusting its path deliberately. Some astronomers ran trajectory models and found that the object's orbit shifted slightly after each jet burst, consistent with controlled maneuvering. The movements were small but measurable and too precise to be random. Skeptics argued that this could be a rare physical reaction inside the object's icy crust, but even that theory failed to explain the pattern. For natural comets, the direction of outgassing constantly changes as they spin. For 3I Atlas, the thrust stayed aligned for long durations, showing consistency that nature rarely achieves. It was as if the object had orientation awareness. NASA's silence during this phase added even more mystery. The agency acknowledged receiving the same data but declined to comment, saying the readings required further validation. Meanwhile, Loeb published an open statement. If we see propulsion where none should exist, we must ask who or what is steering. His question echoed across social media, where enthusiasts began calling 3I Atlas the self-driving comet. To make things stranger, the jet's intensity fluctuated at repeating intervals, almost like a pulse. Every 11 hours, the object released a new burst, matching the rotation period scientists had calculated from its light curve. If this timing was intentional, it hinted at coordination between its spin and propulsion, a design far too complex for an icy rock. By now, many were asking if the object was not drifting through space but navigating it. And if it could steer itself, what destination was it heading toward next? On October 3, 2025, the interstellar object 3I Atlas reached its closest approach to Mars. For scientists, this was the perfect opportunity to finally uncover what it really was. 4 major space agencies, NASA, the European Space Agency, China's CNSA, and the United Arab Emirates Mars mission, all prepared to capture the moment from different vantage points. It was supposed to be one of the most important cooperative observations in modern astronomy. The setup was flawless. ESA's Mars Express and Trace Gas Orbiter had direct lines of sight to the object. China's Tianwen-1 probe was in an ideal orbit to scan the same region. On Earth, observatories from Chile to Hawaii were synchronized to collect data at the exact same minute. Even the Perseverance rover, sitting silently on the Martian surface, was positioned to capture the glow of the strange visitor as it passed by. Billions of dollars worth of equipment and years of preparation came down to a single window of less than 2 hours. But when the data finally arrived, something was wrong. ESA released only 3 blurry images that looked more like noise than discovery. They showed a faint smear of white light with no structure, no color variation, and no measurable shape. Reporters immediately asked why the images looked unfinished. ESA claimed there had been transmission problems. China announced that Tianwen-1 had temporary calibration errors. The UAE said their sensors were in maintenance mode. And NASA, for the first time in decades, said absolutely nothing. The United States was in the middle of a government shutdown, which the agency used to explain its silence. Yet even during past shutdowns, NASA had always kept automated systems active. Telemetry and raw data are stored automatically and do not rely on daily staff operations. So why was there suddenly nothing to show? No public logs, no backup images, not even a single mention of the event on their official pages. Independent astronomers began checking timestamps from publicly available archives. They found that multiple observation windows had been deleted or replaced with data unavailable. A researcher from the University of Sydney noticed that the missing period matched exactly with the time of the 3I Atlas flyby. It was as if that segment of history had been carefully cut out. One ESA engineer anonymously confirmed that some readings are under review, but refused to say more. Meanwhile, Avi Loeb went public with his theory. He suggested that the images might have captured something that didn't fit the standard comet model. If 3I Atlas showed signs of structure or propulsion near Mars, he said, every agency involved would be forced to admit it. His comments spread across news outlets and social media within hours. For some, it was a warning. For others, it was the confirmation they had been waiting for. Online discussions exploded with speculation. Some believed the missing data proved a cover-up, while others thought the agencies were waiting to verify shocking results before releasing them. But the coordinated silence only made the mystery stronger. 4 rival space programs had gone dark at the exact same moment. If it was a coincidence, it was the most extraordinary one in scientific history. So what exactly happened near Mars that made every telescope look away at once? And when the truth finally comes out, will it still belong to science or to secrecy? When the world stopped hearing from official space agencies, ordinary people decided to look up for themselves. In backyards, rooftops, and small observatories around the world, amateur astronomers turned their telescopes toward the same coordinates where 3I Atlas was last seen. What they captured would soon ignite one of the biggest online debates in modern science. It started with a man named João Ferreira, a hobbyist astronomer from Portugal. Using a 12-inch reflector telescope and long-exposure imaging, he recorded a faint object moving slowly across the sky on the night of October 8th. At first, it looked like a blur surrounded by haze, but when he processed the data, something remarkable appeared. Inside the coma, the glowing cloud around the object, he noticed a symmetrical pattern, 3 bright points forming a perfect triangle. He uploaded the photo to an astronomy forum, captioning it simply, "Not a comet." Within hours, the image went viral. Some users enhanced the contrast and claimed to see metallic reflections. Others dismissed it as an optical illusion caused by stacking errors. but the detail was too precise to ignore. Multiple amateur observers from Spain, Brazil, and Australia confirmed seeing the same triangular alignment at roughly the same position in the sky. It wasn't a single lucky shot, it was repeatable. That's when the real conflict began. The images started spreading across Reddit, X, formerly Twitter, and several astronomy communities on Discord. People argued non-stop about what the pattern meant. Was it a fragmenting comet, a reflection from the telescope lens, or something entirely new? Soon, the discussion drew millions of views. Yet, as the conversation grew, posts began to disappear. Users noticed that platforms started flagging the topic as potential misinformation. Several accounts sharing the images were temporarily suspended. The largest astronomy forum online locked the main discussion thread, citing lack of verified data. Screenshots of the posts circulated instead, fueling even more speculation. Some called it coincidence, others called it control. The phrase algorithmic silence appeared repeatedly in comment sections. Meanwhile, Joum's original upload vanished overnight. He later confirmed that his cloud drive had been flagged for unusual activity, preventing access to the original image. Other observers reported similar issues when attempting to share their files. The timing felt too exact to be random. It was as if something or someone didn't want those photos to spread any further. The situation quickly grew beyond science. Major news outlets picked up the story, describing it as the citizen discovery that authorities ignored. Debates over authenticity turned into questions of trust. If independent observers were seeing patterns that space agencies refused to acknowledge, who should the public believe? The silence from official channels only deepened the doubt. By mid-October, the amateur network had become the only source of real-time tracking for 3I Atlas. Their findings hinted that the object was still active, possibly even changing direction slightly. If that was true, then the world's most mysterious visitor was not just being watched, it might have noticed it was being watched too. So what did professionals finally see when they analyzed those patterns for themselves? As public curiosity exploded, professional astronomers began to analyze the strange images more seriously. They focused on what amateurs had noticed first: the triangle-shaped light pattern inside 3I Atlas's glowing coma. At first, many thought it was an artifact of exposure or camera alignment, but when cross-referencing data from multiple observatories, something shocking emerged. The pattern wasn't a glitch, it was real. The Keck Observatory released its refined spectrographic data, showing 3 stable points of nickel emission located in a perfect equilateral triangle. Each point was separated by almost exactly 1.2 miles, and the spacing remained constant over several hours of observation. Natural gas jets never hold fixed symmetry like that. They flicker and change direction as comets spin. Yet these emissions stayed balanced, like 3 lights positioned by design. It was geometry, not chaos. Dr. Avi Loeb was among the first to comment publicly. "This looks engineered," he said during a Harvard radio interview. "Nature doesn't arrange matter in perfect geometry across multiple frames unless there's control involved." His statement was bold but backed by math. He pointed out that random gas ejections would statistically never form such symmetry, not even once. In physics, chance could explain flickers, but not a triangle that repeats in the same position. Other astronomers, including Dr. Helen Ruiz from the University of Madrid, verified Loeb's calculations using independent data from Chile's ALMA array. Their results matched 3 identical emission points, forming a stable equilateral configuration. To make sure it wasn't coincidence, they checked for any interference or reflections from nearby stars. None existed. Whatever those points were, they emitted their own energy. Nickel tetracarbonyl, the same industrial compound earlier detected, was now seen arranged in a formation that no natural process could create. ESA scientists were reluctant to confirm, but internal documents later leaked online showed similar conclusions. A paragraph from an unclassified report described the triangle as geometrically persistent. That phrase spread across scientific circles like wildfire. If the triangle persisted after the Mars flyby, it meant structure, and structure meant construction. Skeptics tried to dismiss the idea, suggesting it could be magnetic clustering or coincidence caused by debris rotation. However, deeper analysis showed that the formation maintained identical spacing even as the object's brightness fluctuated. It rotated as one unit, implying that the 3 sources were physically connected. This changed everything. A self-contained system showing mechanical symmetry could only be the product of design. The realization hit hard. If 3I Atlas was built, it wasn't a comet at all. It was an object with purpose. Its geometry, its metal composition, and its directed motion all pointed toward intentional creation. And if something created it, then it had a maker. The question no one could avoid now was simple but terrifying. What happens when that maker notices we've found its work? As scientists debated the triangular structure of 3I Atlas, a new mystery began to unfold near Mars. In the weeks following its flyby, strange lights were detected orbiting close to the planet's equator. At first, they looked like weak radio reflections from the object itself, but soon they started to behave differently, appearing, vanishing, and reappearing in perfect synchronization. No natural debris acts with such precision. The first report came from a small private observatory in Chile that picked up rhythmic pulses on a narrow radio band near 21 MHz. They repeated every 47 seconds, creating a sequence too organized to be random. Almost at the same time, Japan's Tenman satellite logged faint optical flashes over the same coordinates. When both signals were layered together, the pattern matched perfectly, as if someone was sending a timed signal. Some scientists dismissed it as interference, but the pattern persisted for several days and seemed to move with 3I Atlas's trajectory. A group of researchers at the University of Vienna analyzed the data and suggested that small reflective fragments might have separated from the main body during its close pass by Mars. These fragments appeared to move in formation, maintaining consistent distances of roughly 300 feet apart. That kind of coordination hinted at deployment rather than explosion. Then came the most controversial claim. High-resolution images from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter showed brief reflections that appeared metallic, hovering just above the planet's thin atmosphere. NASA did not confirm their authenticity, but the images quickly leaked online. The objects were small, each estimated to be no more than 15 feet wide, but they displayed an unnerving symmetry. They moved in pairs, following curved paths that converged near a point above the Valles Marineris canyon system. To some experts, it looked like construction behavior. Avi Loeb commented again, saying, "If 3i Atlas is technological, then leaving something behind near Mars would be logical. That's exactly what we would do while exploring another star system." His statement reignited the debate. Was the object releasing probes? Or were these signals simply a coincidence amplified by the world's obsession with finding meaning in noise? As the phenomenon continued, Mars-based equipment began to detect faint magnetic fluctuations matching the timing of the radio pulses. It was as though the planet itself was responding. The synchronized activity stopped abruptly after October 29th, the day 3i Atlas disappeared behind the Sun. When it re-emerged weeks later, those signals were gone, but so were the reflective objects. Whatever had been there had either completed its mission or gone silent. The mystery left scientists divided. Some argued the entire event was misinterpreted as static, while others believed it was evidence of an active system operating just beyond human reach. If 3i Atlas truly deployed something near Mars, the red planet may now host the first trace of technology not made by human hands. But what will happen when that technology wakes, or worse, when it answers back? By late October 2025, the tension around 3i Atlas had reached its peak. The object was moving closer to the Sun, heading for a moment scientists called perihelion, the point when it would be nearest to the star and most exposed to heat and radiation. For most comets, this is when they begin to break apart. But for 3i Atlas, this moment would become the ultimate test: nature or design. Astronomers around the world prepared for what they called the November window. Because the object would pass behind the Sun from Earth's perspective, it would vanish from view for several weeks. This period, which Avi Loeb described as the clandestine window, was critical. If 3i Atlas truly behaved like a natural comet, it should lose mass and fragment under intense solar pressure. If it reappeared intact, or worse, changed its trajectory, it would suggest control. Every observatory, from Keck in Hawaii to the Very Large Telescope in Chile, was scheduled to monitor the aftermath. Space agencies coordinated to catch the first post-perihelion light, hoping to compare the before and after structure. ESA set up an automated alert system to send real-time updates the moment the object became visible again. But then, right as the countdown began, NASA's live tracking dashboard went offline. A maintenance notice replaced the feed, saying the system was temporarily unavailable. It stayed that way for 12 days. During that time, no new images or telemetry came from any agency. The world was in the dark, both literally and figuratively. When the object finally reappeared on November 4th, the first to capture it was not a government telescope, but an independent network of sky watchers. The early images showed something shocking. The brightness of 3i Atlas had increased fourfold, but its size hadn't changed. Instead of showing signs of decay, it looked more organized, almost symmetrical. Some astronomers described the reflection pattern as structured luminosity, a term never used before in comet science. Dr. Loeb and his team analyzed the returning light curves and found that the object's rotation period had shortened by nearly 2 hours. Such a change meant energy had been expended or redirected intentionally. He suggested that it might have performed a controlled maneuver using internal propulsion. ESA data later confirmed a small but measurable deviation in its orbit. 3i Atlas was now several hundred miles off its projected course. That deflection couldn't be explained by gravity or solar wind alone. The evidence split the scientific community in two. Skeptics argued that gas bursts or outgassing could mimic controlled motion. Supporters countered that the precision of the shift was too exact for randomness. The debate became global, with every update turning into breaking news. Even ordinary people began tracking the object through open-source tools, adding their own measurements to online maps. The mystery had escaped academia and entered public consciousness. As November drew to a close, one question dominated every discussion. If 3I Atlas had just survived the most destructive phase of its journey and came out stronger, what did that say about its true nature? And more importantly, was this survival the sign of life or the signature of technology? If Avi Loeb is right, then 3I Atlas could be the first real proof that we are not alone. Its metal chemistry, impossible jet, geometric design, and survival beyond the sun all point toward intelligence, not coincidence. Maybe it is a message written in motion, traveling across galaxies just to see who is watching. Whether it's a machine or a relic, one thing is certain: the universe is no longer silent. So, what do you think? Is 3I Atlas a natural wanderer or the first visitor built by another civilization? Tell us your theory below and subscribe for the next investigation.